What is going on, my friends? Welcome back to the Locks DFS NBA breakdown video. I am your host, Christian Hardy. I am at by Hardy on Twitter. You can follow me right here. You can see my tweets right there. And I am by Hardy on DraftKings, and I am from LocksDFS.com. We are a provider of daily fantasy analysis in the NFL, NBA, and college football communities. And we provide our locks, our player grades, our player tiers in terms of cash, EBP, value rankings, stud and value rankings on every slate for NBA. So go check them out, LocksDFS.com, as well as our player grades, and get into the chat as well. Lots of different options on our website, LocksDFS.com. With that said, let's go ahead and go into this NBA 10-game slate for this Friday evening. We've got a lot of pretty interesting spots, a lot of interesting pricing on this slate that makes it a little bit tough. There's a lot of different paths to go on this slate, and that's pretty much that's the standard for 10-game slates. But right now, there aren't a lot of guys that you are just surefire putting in so far as I can see. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about some of the situations. Obviously, we have a really interesting situation in Washington playing a Miami team that has, they started the year playing really fast, but they really slowed down. They've got a really solid defense. But that said, Washington is a pretty efficient offense. And let me go ahead and pull up, I'm on the NFL Vegas tab, but let me pull up this NBA one. And, Washington has still been a pretty efficient offense in general this year, and they are facing, it's a 9.5 point spread. Not too worried about that. I think they should be able to keep, they're going to, they don't have a lot of guys. With so many guys out, let's just roll through their injuries. Isaiah Thomas, Jordan McRae, both ruled out. CJ Miles is still out, of course. Thomas Bryant has been ruled out. Ian Mahimi is not going to play on the back-to-back, just coming back from injury. So, yeah, there's just so many minutes to go around here. Even last night, Mahimi played 13 minutes. Those minutes are going to go somewhere else. This is a really interesting situation. Of course, the most standout and the one that everyone will probably play, especially after his stat line last night, is Ish Smith. He's 3,600 on DraftKings. Isaiah Thomas got late scratch yesterday. He's not going to play again today. Jordan McRae also out. He could have played some backup 1 minutes, but instead, now we have Ish Smith, and then we're getting Bradley Beal on ball a little bit as well. I think we're going to see a little bit more of Beal on ball today, but he got on ball a decent amount yesterday. But mostly, Smith played so many minutes, was on the floor so long. He looked really good. Hit those 2 threes in the first half. Was pretty much already at value at halftime. If he's playing 34 minutes, 36 at 3,600, you don't really have to think about it. You just play him. He's going to be the team's starting point guard, assuming the lineup is the same as yesterday. So the price just didn't get adjusted because, the slate hadn't ended before they put these new prices up. So, yeah, you pretty much get a free Ish Smith today. He's a free square. Other than that, he's the one free square, and that's what gives you so much flexibility with your rosters because Ish Smith is going to be a guy who should be on pretty much all your teams. In terms of the rest of Miami, let's talk about them real quick before I move on to some other injury situations. I think there's reason to be interested in a lot of guys here. With no Thomas Bryant, no Isaiah Thomas, I need to sneeze real bad. Mo Wagner is at 1.23 fantasy point per minute, and Bradley Beal is at 1.3 fantasy point per minute. Both should get a solid amount of usage in this game. I like Beal's price at 8.6. I know it's a pretty tough defensive matchup. He's going to see a lot of Jimmy Butler, but that's okay with me. Especially just the fact that he's going to have to play big minutes, played 38 last night, played 42 the game before, with just such a, they're going to need scoring, and he's going to be the guy that they're going to have to turn to a lot of the time. Mo Wagner didn't play a lot last night, but at 5K, man, this is an awesome price to be getting Mo Wagner at. If we see him play a little bit more, even if he does end up playing 26 minutes, I'm cool with it. And of course, Mahimi being out is going to clear up 13 minutes for guys like Wagner down low. Thomas Bryant is out. Like I said, Mo Wagner, 1.23 fantasy point per minute. So even if we're getting 25 out of Wagner here, which I think is pretty much his floor because they have very little depth down low. Maybe they replace Mahimi and just play Admiral Schofield down low, but I don't think they want to do that really. I think what's going to really happen is Mo Wagner is going to end up playing a little bit more minutes, and then maybe they give a few to Schofield or something like that. I don't see Schofield being a guy they want to give 13 minutes. So Mo Wagner, to me, looks like a really, really good play on this slate, even in a relatively tough matchup. So it's going to be a situation where you're going to be trying not to get too much Washington, I think. I haven't really, crunched it all in terms of GBPs, but I'm assuming that's how it's going to have to be. I'm going to have to adjust to decide how much Washington I'm going to try to get, and it's probably going to end up being a lot. They have a respectable 110 team total. So who did I not mention here? Troy Brown's rates were actually very surprising without those two guys as well. 1.2 fantasy point per minute. It's in a pretty small sample size, but still to see him being that significantly used is definitely notable to me. At 3.8K, I think he has a minutes floor around 20 most games. Of course, he only played 18 last night, but in general, one thing is that he will probably take, if he is playing a lot of minutes, it could probably going to be coming away from Ish, because I would likely see Troy coming in a situation where Beal is at the 1 and Troy's at the 2. So, take that as you will. I think they do get back Isaac Bonga. No, he played last night. Okay, I mean, you just kind of forget that Isaac Bonga plays sometimes, It just happens because he doesn't do anything. Okay, that was a lot of talk about Washington. I think a lot of them are really good plays. 10-game slate, so I'm going to try not to go overboard on them, but a lot of guys make sense there. Even Rui Hachimura, he played almost the entire game last night, and he's not priced up too much to a point where I wouldn't get to him. Bertans hit those threes last night. He looked hot shooting-wise. I think that took a little bit of minutes possibly from Wagner a little bit as well. But, I think, Rui has an awesome floor here as well, and he's a solid play. I mean, like I said, a lot of these Washington guys are going to project well just because the minutes are so solid right now. And Mahimi is out again. Or Mahimi is back to being ruled out. Going over to the other side on Miami, I think we have a pretty solid. So there's obviously we need to know if Justin Winslow is in or out. Regardless of the Winslow news, I'm really interested in Kendrick Nunn at 4,800. I know he hasn't been great lately, but I think we're going to see some pretty big minutes on him. Something like this, where we're getting like 36 minutes out of Nunn with no Dragic. They're just going to want him in one of those two guard spots. Winslow obviously is up in the air, and we don't know. That would even further solidify Nunn as a very, very good value play on the slate if Winslow is out. Solidifies his minutes, going to solidify his assist rate, going to solidify. He might grab a few extra rebounds, and of course the usage a little bit is going to open up. Although Winslow is not a guy who takes a ton of usage, he can at times, as you can see with 10 shots in each of the last 3 games, at least 10 shots. I like Jimmy Butler. He's not projecting for a good amount of ownership as well, so maybe I'm not alone on that at all. But Jimmy Butler, I didn't even mention the fact this is the best matchup in the NBA. Washington playing at the fastest pace, they are playing the worst defense in the league, in terms of defensive efficiency. Jimmy Butler 8.1K still priced. He got priced up 800. He was an awesome play against Boston the other day at 7.3K. But he's going to do a decent amount of ball handling. And, he's going to get a lot of shots up with no Dragic in, So I think Harrell has an upside if we see Winslow ruled out, just because there's more guard minutes to go around there. But I wouldn't be too interested if Winslow is in. So those are the two guys I'm really interested in. Nunn, too cheap for his minutes floor. Butler, also a little bit underpriced for the matchup in the minutes floor. I think both these guys could shoot lights out. Of course, I have a little bit of interest in Bam as well. It's a really solid matchup against Washington, who doesn't have a ton of size. No Thomas Bryant down low. Wagner definitely going to help them out a little bit there. And I think Wagner's going to have to play minutes down there because of a guy like Bam. They're going to have some size. They're going to have to match with some size. Going out to another injury situation, we have the Sacramento one against San Antonio. So another situation where the matchup isn't great, but I still would like a lot of guys here if the news breaks right. Bogdanovich is questionable. Corey Joseph is questionable. Corey Joseph has been starting at the 1 with De'Aaron Fox out, obviously, and Bogdanovich plays a lot of backup 1 and also plays on the wing a decent amount as well off the bench. Regardless, I'm not interested. It's really just tough for me to get to Bogdanovich, if his hamstring, it's a hamstring thing. He's a game time decision. Oh, he's a knee. It's a knee now. It was a hamstring just Wednesday. Now it's a knee. So dealing with both of those things, apparently, it's just really tough to get to him if he's playing because he comes off the bench and it's like, he's already off the bench, and then they're probably going to limit him if he's in. So it's just a situation I'd probably stay away from if he ends up being in. If both Joseph and Bogdanovich are out, or even just Joseph, of course, Yogi Ferrell is going to pop as one of the best values on the slate. You can give him probably at least 22 minutes. If both are out, you could probably give him like 28 minutes, to be honest with you, because they're just going to need someone to run a point guard. It also would raise the floor of Buddy Hield if either of them are out, because Hield would probably end up getting a lot more on-ball usage. His assist rate would go up. We've seen it. We just saw this game. He really played really, really well in this Portland game, I thought. Of course, the shots didn't fall as well as you'd like to see for him. But in terms of just being a leader, an on-ball guy on the court, taking over the offense, he did that a lot versus Portland. And I think that's going to continue if Corey Joseph is out. And of course, if Bogdanovich is out, even more. And just even if Bogdanovich is in, Buddy Hield's minutes floor is so high that I think he's a pretty solid play, even in a pace down spot against San Antonio. Okay, that pretty much goes over. Oh, one obvious play that I didn't see projecting well in a lot of places, but to me makes a ton of sense. It pretty much relies a lot on the Bogdanovich news. But we saw Trevor Ariza come back. Well, we've seen him come back a few games now. He's played limited at times. That's crazy. He played 32 minutes, didn't shoot a shot against Utah. But played 35 minutes last game, coming off the bench, closed the game over. They played him over Bielitsa in the last game. So, who knows if he continues to close or not. But even if we do see Bogdan out again, which he was in the last game, which is why we saw a chance for Ariza to close, I think that the preference it seems to be that they're going to close with Ariza over Bielitsa. We're going off one game here, so anything can change. But even if he's not closing, he's still going to be good for about 27 minutes. 3.3K. I think it's a really, really solid value here. If Bogdan isn't out, not a ton of upside in my opinion, but still a guy who can easily get to value at 3.3K in my opinion. Talked about none. One guy I just want to talk about this team in Chicago. So Golden State has really turned down the pace since early in the year, and that's I think this has been a pattern that we've seen because of the injuries. They don't have anyone to really run the floor, run the pace up. Well, D'Angelo Russell is back now, and I think we're going to see the Warriors start to run up in pace again and start to feel a little bit more confident about their offense, and take these threes. Obviously, Russell's going to increase the 3 percentage as well. So for that reason, I'm interested in some of these Chicago guys who really are getting like no ownership. Like if we go over to Vegas here. On Fantasy Labs, they got a 109.25 team total, which is a pretty solid number. Not something I'm in love with, but a pretty solid number for them to be getting. None of these guys are 10% owned on DraftKings right now. So I'm interested in taking some shots on Chicago. I think, like I said, I think Golden State's going to play pace up. It's obviously a very soft defensive matchup for Chicago, regardless of who's in for Golden State. So, Laurie last 2 games looked a little bit more confident in his shots, but still, he's not rebounding as much as he was last year, and he's not taking as many shots as he was last year. If he can keep that efficiency going, we could start to see him take a little bit more shots. If you want to take a shot on him in this game, I don't mind it at all. He's a pretty solid GPP option for me. Obviously, he has double-double upside. Kobe White is interesting, but Chris Dunn starting has really taken away some of those minutes. So and Chris Dunn isn't productive enough when he's on the floor for me to touch him at this price really. So it's really for me just going to be if you want, and Wendell Carter's always priced up too high for me to really take a shot on as well. So it's really just going to be Levine and Markkanen interested in GPP for me. And then Valentine I project decently because he's been cut off the bench and getting like 16 minutes, but he's a thin value there. With Hutchinson out though, with that young out. They've needed to go to Valentine. Oh, and Otto. They've got all these forwards out. So Valentine has been getting minutes because of that. He has a little bit of upside, but there are guys that they can push around. Like Sato can play the 3. He can play the 2. Kobe White can play the 2. He can play point guard. Dunn can play the 1, 2, or 3. Arcidiacono can play the 1 or the 2. There's just a lot of guys that can move around and not give Valentine minutes, so it's just a really low floor. But he is 3.3K or 3.1K. Almost minimum. So if you want to take a shot on that, I don't mind it in a nice matchup. I did mention Jimmy Butler, who gets a slight bump. And then let's talk about 2 interesting spots for me in terms of, some higher totals. So if we go back one more time to Vegas, actually it's not going to pop up, but the Lakers and the Trailblazers have a 225 game total, which is the 3rd highest on the slate behind this Miami game and behind the Clippers game. So we're going to talk about the Clippers here in a second, but I really wanted to talk about, these Lakers guys are very much in play if you think this game stays close. LeBron is back down. He got priced up to a place where no one was playing with this 11K range. Now he's 10-1, and he's been in play the last 2 games because he's been 10-2, 10. But those were on, I believe, both on the Denver game was on a bigger slate. The Utah game was on a smaller slate, and still. Or no, Utah game was on a bigger slate. Anyway, no one's really been playing him too much. This is an interesting game for me. This is actually the most interesting game for me out of LeBron. First of all, I think Portland is a team that can probably keep this game close. I'm a little bit worried about it because the Lakers have just been blowing out good teams. I guess the Denver game wasn't a blowout, but handled Denver. They obviously blow out Utah. This game probably is going to be a blowout. Probably isn't going to be a blowout. It's a 4-point spread. I think LeBron has a chance to reach a really high ceiling here at just 10K. I think he's got a solid chance to even go 6X here. A competitive game. Portland is top 10 in pace, which is really going to push the Lakers to move faster a little bit. If he's playing all 4 quarters, he's not priced as if he's playing all 4 quarters right now. He's priced as if he's playing like 3 quarters, 3.5 quarters. Or 3.5 stints, I should say, instead of quarters. But Yeah, and even Anthony Davis at 9.6K, he's someone I'm going to want to get to a decent amount. He's probable to play. Not worried about that. The shoulder is a problem all year. Again, 26 minutes last game, gets priced down. Or actually, he got priced up from that game because he was only 9.4. That was on a short slate. I'm thinking of the late slate. But, I think he's a solid value here as well. Don't mind him. And I don't think Portland, I'm not too worried about like the defense down low from Portland on him. And then going to the highest total game of the day, which we haven't even talked about yet, it is the Clippers and the Bucks, probably the premier game of the day. Going to be a very, very good one. I'm very excited to watch it, to be honest with you. Either the Clippers studs are really decent plays in this. We'll start there with the Clippers. It's a pace up against Milwaukee, obviously playing. I think they're the second in pace, or they actually might be first, and I might have been wrong about Washington. They might be second. But regardless, it's pace up for Milwaukee against the Clippers team that already runs decently in pace. Kawhi Leonard is at 1.41 fantasy point per minute still with George in. And then George is at 1.2. So Leonard has been a lot more productive than George. The problem is that George, even in close games and in blowouts, George is playing more minutes in general. Like George's minute ceiling has been 37 in this Boston game, where we're not really seeing Kawhi play 37 minutes ever. So that's just we have some games here, in the Boston game he does play 38. So maybe they have about a similar minutes projection if they're going to play in a close game, most likely. You could probably give them 36 at least. And at that price in this game, I think they're both pretty solid plays. You just kind of have to decide where you want to go with your high end guys. Like I said, the Lakers, the Clippers, guys like Buddy Hield. There's a lot of interesting situations on this slate for you to kind of decide what you want to do with the high-priced guys. And even here, of course, we have Giannis as well, who is priced down to 11.3K and is going to start to project better the lower his price goes. Obviously, 11.3K is the lowest he's been in quite some time, 8 games it looks like. So even with Chris Middleton starting, he's at 1.76 fantasy point per minute with Middleton on the floor. Obviously, he's going to get some minutes without Middleton on the floor, just a bit. If he's playing 36 minutes here, you can easily project him for 60 points. And is at price to just over 11K, 60 points would be great from him. This is the type of high-paced game that really suits him. And not that the Clippers are going to run pace up or anything, but it's a competitive game that's really going to suit him. And also, one thing I like about Giannis, and it's obviously embedded into those stats at 1.76 fantasy per minute. But, he's starting to shoot more threes this year. He's hit them more efficiently this year than he ever has in his career. And that's really added to his upside in these games that are really tight, that he needs to play a lot. Obviously it's going to increase his scoring in general. You're going to get the 3-point bonuses. Really like Giannis in this game. And someone that I think, especially if we get the Yogi Ferrell news, would be a very solid cash play. Obviously, watch the Minnesota guys. They're both questionable. Karl-Anthony Towns, Wiggins. Those two guys, however that plays out, the game locks at, I think it was right here, 8 p.m. That's going to change the entire slate if those guys are out. So keep a close eye on that. Hopefully we get some news before lock on those guys. They're both listed as game time decisions. I forgot one other guy I want to talk about in the Clippers side for this game. I don't mind the Patrick Beverley price, but he's never really, occasionally brings a lot of upside. This could be a game. I don't mind the price at all. I think he's fine play. I wouldn't mind getting exposure to him at all. But I really like Montrezl Harrell. I think this game suits him really well. I don't think he's gonna have he would have problems defending Brook Lopez, a guy who can step outside and is gonna kind of stretch the floor. He's not a guy that's gonna post up and just dominate you. And not that Trez can't play post defense, but I don't feel great about him all the time being in on the post because he's Montrezl is an animal. Like he can do anything. But I think this is a game in terms of pace that really suits him. Guy who can run the floor. He's there. I think they're going to play him a solid amount of minutes in this game. I think we're going to see a 30-minute game from him at least here against Milwaukee. Against Milwaukee. Just a game that's going to run high in pace. A guy that they're going to want to get shots up against. Like Trez a lot today at that price. He's going to be. I think I could have a decent amount of him, maybe even as much as I do Paul George in this game potentially. So that's pretty much going to wrap it up for me. I talked about the Lakers. Yeah, so we're all good to go. Thank you guys so much for watching. Best of luck today. Wrap up the week with a strong dub. It's been a pretty good week over here at Locks DFS. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys back here next time. Peace.